So yeah, welcome to a special video. Today, I am honored to interview Michael Waldron, the writer of Doctor Strange 2, showrunner of Loki, among other writing credits. Michael, thanks so much for the privilege to interview you on my channel.
Dude, happy to be here.
Okay, yeah, so let's jump into the questions. My first question I wanted to ask is because my channel does have lots of like younger people, like young adults and teenagers who are very interested into the film industry. I wanted to like ask you about how are you before you like got into this, like as your younger self, were you always super interested into this and stuff?
Yes. Yeah, I was, man. I was well, first off, I'm a fan of your channel.
Thank
It's
you, thank you.
rad and it's cool. I love that you're out there making these videos and that you're a fan. Because yes, this is exactly the type of stuff I loved doing when I was your age. You know, the internet was a relatively new thing, which makes me sound
Hmm.
like I'm 100 years old. But for me, it was like my earliest memory was like being on Ain't It Cool News and these old movie scoop websites, like the original scooping website
Yeah.
or YouTube or anything, trying to read about like the Matrix sequels or like
Mm.
stuff like that, like scoops about okay, when's a new trailer going to premiere or something. And so yeah, I was probably, if I was a kid now, I'd be doing all the same stuff you and your viewers are doing, just watching all this stuff online. It's cool how much content there is.
Yeah, I love it. So now to talk more about Doctor Strange 2. I saw like I was watching a video online for like Easter eggs in it, and one like said that you made a cameo in the movie. Is this true?
This is true. This is true.
Ah,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, it's a really pivotal moment in the film when I
Yeah.
make my big debut. But yeah, I think I'm credited as Charlie's best man. So I'm technically the best man of Christine Palmer, Rachel McAdams' character, her new husband. But that was fun because I got to go in hair and makeup,
Yeah.
which was fun. And I did it on a day that Michael Stuhlbarg, who plays Nick West, was
Mhm.
there, and he's a great actor. So I was in the makeup chair next to him and was
Oh, that's really fun, yeah.
geeking out about Call Me by Your Name and some cool stuff he's been in. Um, and but it was actually super helpful, even that little clip that I'm in, because it gave me a sense of that pressure that the actors feel. When the director calls action, you've got to perform, you got to remember your lines, you got to deliver, because time is money on these
Yeah.
movie sets. And suddenly you're up there looking at a giant blue screen and I'm supposed to be looking at a giant octopus, and there's Rachel McAdams and she's so good at it, she really looks like she knows what she's doing, and I'm like,
Mhm.
what's going on? So it was an informative experience for me as a writer to do that. And yeah, that was a blast.
Between, like, Doctor Strange 2, like, Loki, and then also you worked in Rick and Morty some, you've done, like, a lot of multiverse stuff. Was, like, the multiverse an idea that, like, you were interested before you did these projects?
Not really, which is which is
Yeah.
weird because here I am having worked on it a ton. I think it's cool. I think I'm just a
Yeah.
science fiction fan, uh,
Yeah.
and I liked, certainly in Rick and Morty we did so much multiverse stuff.
Yes.
We got to go so deep with it that then getting to figure out, all right, how are we going to apply that to the established world of the MCU felt like a fun challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, and, um, now I gotta ask, is, like, this gonna be your thing? Are you gonna, like, make a heels multiverse? Or, like, you're gonna add, like, the multiverse to Star Wars or something?
Uh, you're not gonna trip me up with that second one and get,
Yeah.
that's how you get 50 million views. I say something about Star Wars. Uh, I A heels multiverse is good. I would like that. I'd like to encounter the multiversal versions of Wild Bill and Jack,
Yeah.
some of those characters. But I think that I think of the multiverse really as it's just other locations is the truth. It's other
Yeah.
locations, it's other interiors, exteriors that your heroes can go to, and they can perhaps more literally confront the what ifs of their lives, the paths not taken, and alternate selves, versions of who they would be if they had made different decisions, which is interesting stuff to play with dramatically.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also just find, yeah, I find it very interesting to look at that. Yeah. And then also with Multiverse of Madness, it's very much as it like Doctor Strange sequel, it seems to be a lot of a almost like a WandaVision sequel in lots of ways too. Did you have to work with like the different WandaVision people to like make writers and stuff to make sure like Wanda's arc like stays very connected? Was that something that happened?
Yes, that was the most important thing
Yeah.
to me. I so I worked, with that team, with Jack Schaefer, the writer on
Hmm.
WandaVision, and read all those scripts as we were writing our movie. So I knew what was happening in WandaVision. And then as soon as there were cuts of episodes coming in, we were watching that, and I was, trying to be a student of WandaVision so that it felt like what we were doing with Wanda in this movie, which I knew was bold and
Yeah.
unexpected, and could be a little bit polarizing. I wanted to always feel like it was earned based on what had happened in WandaVision. That was the most important thing to me.
You've written about quite a few different Marvel heroes and villains. Is there one like specifically that you did find like the most interesting to like write about?
Um, Man, it's hard. It's like they're all like your kids at
Yeah.
some point. It's so it's hard to really say. I loved writing for Stephen Strange because he was the first real hero that I
Yeah.
for. Loki was a blast because he's an anti-hero that we were getting to send on kind of a heroic arc. Wanda, obviously, we were taking somebody who'd always kind of straddled that line, and we were turning her in this more story into something monstrous, but with a perhaps a justifiable objective. Um, so that I've had fun with all of them. I mean, I can say what was a lot of fun was getting to write for Mr. Fantastic, Reed
Oh
Richards.
yeah.
I am a huge fan of the Fantastic Four comics, and John Krasinski was so great in that
I
role.
agree. I was
Yeah.
so excited when he came on screen.
How were you bummed out when he died?
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. It's
um, but John was so great, and he and I had a lot of fun working together, working with Sam, figuring out, all right, in a relatively short amount of time, how can we deliver on the promise of this character that people wanted to see for a long time in the MCU. And so that was a lot of fun.
with the different Illuminati was like just exciting to have just those a bunch of different characters to just sort of explore a bit.
Totally. It was that whole sequence. Really, the purpose of it is to show how awesome the Scarlet Witch is in a lot of ways. We wanted to introduce this incredibly powerful multiversal fighting force. And then they get wiped out by Wanda.
Yeah.
And then heading into the last third of the movie that our heroes are really, really up against it. That this is a truly unstoppable enemy they're facing. And so to get the actors and the characters in that sequence that those hints of who they were in this world was a blast. Yeah, it was awesome. Every single one of them was just so.
Yeah. How was it like deciding that you're just gonna kill them all off? Was it just like,
It felt crazy. I'll tell you, I did that in my first draft of the script without telling anybody.
wow,
It was not in an outline or anything. So the way it works is you turn in an outline and then you go
mhm,
off and that gets approved. And then you go off and you write a draft based on that. In the summer of 2020, I was writing the first draft based on an outline.
mhm,
And I found that I was just like, you know what? The movie needs to be crazier. And
yeah,
so that was when I just took a big swing and wrote in the Illuminati. And then as soon as I got excited about the idea of putting him in the movie, what I got even more excited about was the idea of brutally killing them.
yeah,
And so I didn't know how it would be received, but fortunately everybody was pretty excited when they got it.
yeah. And I think it made like a super memorable scene in the movie. So yeah, I think it worked out.
Great.
Um, yeah. And then another question I have is, so with like Loki and Heels, you seem to have like more like creative control over the whole thing as being like creator or showrunner. How does that compare with something like Doctor Strange 2? Do you feel like it's a lot less control or like without that?
It's interesting. That's traditionally writers have more control in television.
Mhm.
Um, so that, that's where, so in a regular TV show, the showrunner
Yeah.
is kind of in charge of the whole production, whereas in a feature film, the director is in
Yeah.
charge of the whole production. Um, in the Marvel world, I wasn't technically the showrunner of Loki. I was the head writer,
Oh,
creator.
head running. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Kate Herron was the director. And in that way, it really felt like a partnership. There wasn't a
Mhm.
typical showrunner on that project. And it worked really well because Kate did such an amazing job, and her and
Yeah.
I were just two halves of the same brain, um, making that thing together. And then on Doctor Strange, I think that I had a really phenomenal experience working with Sam. He and I worked so closely together. I was there on set with him every day, working with him, working with the actors, that it felt like, in a lot of ways, it reminded me of a show running job, in the sense that you're so plugged into what's going on. You're working with the actors and shaping the direction of things. That is just a testament to how collaborative Sam is. That he was really, um, allowed me to be so involved, and helped us build the thing together.
Yeah. Sam Raimi seems like a very cool guy to work with. So yeah.
He's the greatest. He's such a great guy. It was hard to not spend the entire time just being like, so what was it like shooting Spider-Man 2? And we also got to work with, these movies are made by so many people.
Mhm.
A fight scene, the music fight scene, for instance, starts out as storyboards, which then
Yeah.
become what's called previs, which is like bad CGI you'd see in a old PlayStation game.
Yeah.
It becomes the blueprint of what the thing's going to be. But one of Sam's longtime collaborators is the storyboard artist Doug Leffler, who I worked very close with. Doug was the storyboard artist who he storyboarded the upside down kiss in the first Spider-Man, and worked on the iconic Peter holding the train together sequence. So you're working with legends, and
Yeah.
you're in the trenches together. And I would always walk away just pinching myself, thinking about how cool it was.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So finally, for my last question is, do you have any advice for people like me who are really interested into going into the industry?
Well, I think you're doing the right thing
Mhm.
by watching stuff. It starts with loving this stuff. I think that that might be the only real requirement um, to do what I do, to do what anybody does. Is you have to love it, because if you love it, then you'll work hard enough, and you'll give yourself over to it the way you have to make it. You know, I'm from a suburb of Atlanta, Georgia, and I grew up way before they shot a lot of movies and stuff in Atlanta. And I didn't see the Pacific Ocean until I was 23 years old. I'd never been to Los Angeles. But I knew that I loved movies and I love TV, and I love telling stories. And so I think my advice is to just create stuff, write stories, film them on your phone, you
Yeah.
know, make stuff with your friends, and don't think that it's not possible, because it definitely is.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. So thanks again for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk. Because yeah, this is really fun, and I'm really looking forward to your future work.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'll be
Yes.
back.